Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to come just after Nilüfer Göley about talking about all this, because I will rely on many things that were said, because if we may have different dreams, we are sharing views and assessment of the situation. Well, what I will try to do, because I don't want to repeat many things that have been said, because I agree on many things and many dimensions, and then out of our discussions later on, we'll be able to discuss this. But I will try to say something from within and from outside at the same time, to try to bring to the fore some points that we have to discuss as essential for our common future. I'm not dreaming, by the way, of European Islam or European Muslims. Willing it or not, it's here. It's a fact, it's a reality. So it's not a dream that in the future it will come. Just look at the facts and the figures, assess them. Look at what is happening now in the two head countries in Europe, the UK and France, but not only. In this country, I've been working here for the last 1.5 years with people. They are Dutch people, they are Europeans, and they are Muslims. The problem is not the realities, our perceptions. I think that here there is something which is quite important. It doesn't mean that we have to idealize the reality, but we have to assess it and to know where things are happening and what is really happening. And in my work for the last 20-25 years, the problem that I had in Europe, but not only in Europe, in the West in fact, it was exactly the same. I was just this year in Australia and New Zealand, and I was just witnessing exactly the same problem. Our problem is confusion. We don't know what we are talking about. We are confusing everything. And when we are speaking about academic discourse, assessing realities, what is happening, to deconstruct and all this, when it comes to Islam, it's so passionate that it's confusion. There is a lack of clarity in the discussion. What are we talking about? And it's, by the way, it's not only coming from the Europeans. If you look at what is also happening within the Muslim communities, there are so much doubts and suspicion sometimes as to the reality of the surrounding environment, that we are also dealing with confusion. When it comes, for example, about this very simple thing. Are we talking about Muslim presence, or are we talking about immigration? These are two different things. Immigration is continuing and will continue, not only because the people want to come, but because Europe needs them. It's a two-way process. They want to come because they are surviving there, but we need to understand that our cultural resistance to their presence is conflicting with the economic need of their help. And this is a reality. So this is something, we have to talk about it, but this has nothing to do with the presence of citizens being Europeans now, and they are already European, and this is also something which is important. Now we are also dealing with social unrests and you know what happened in France, but also in the UK, what is going to happen in many other countries, and what we have now coming with, you know, the oil prices. It's going to create social unrest on many different levels, but sometimes our confusing approach as to confuse what are the socio-economic problems with cultural problems or religious problems. Our very easy way to Islamize the social problems that we have when it comes to assess what is happening in the job market, what is happening as to the social discriminations and institutionalized racism that we have in our country. So I think that here also we are dealing with confusion and insecurity. While I agree with many of the factors that Nilüfer was highlighting, why it's happening also, and these perceptions that we are dealing with realities that are scary per se. You know, the fact that we are in Europe dealing with a global world. And this has nothing to do, by the way, it has nothing to do with Islam, it has to do with our nation-state connection. If I deal with, you know, I'm much more European than many British people, many French people. I'm a European much more than them because, by the way, I'm looking at Europe, I'm looking at my present. Some of them are very French, very Dutch, very British, and they don't want this business of European, EU and the global world. So we are dealing with something which is, without Islam, but a problem of who are we in this global world. So this is something which is also important, and add to this what was mentioned about the Muslim presence, the visible Muslim presence, immigration that is going to continue, violence, and the Turkish discussion. So this is something for me which is confusion, many factors, nurturing fears and perceptions, and what I am trying to do from within being being a European and living in Europe is to try to do two things. First is just to try to understand what is really happening on the ground and to deconstruct this and say what are the challenges for Muslims within, in which way they have to build something which is their European identity and more confidence, because I think it's something which is quite important. And at the same time, how do they contribute to their society, and what was said about the public sphere is something which is quite important. The first thing which is quite, which is also a reality here, if you look at the facts and the figures at the grassroots level, the great majority of the Muslims everywhere, and I just challenge any one of you to prove me the opposite. The great majority of the Muslims everywhere are law-abiding in the West. They are. They accept the laws of the country, they are respecting them and don't have a problem with them. It's only a minority that are under the lies and shedding some suspicion, but the great majority. We have more and more citizens, and everywhere. And this is the reality, as I said, in the two head countries. Half of the French Muslims are French citizens. They are citizens, and citizenship is understood as it should be, meaning by this law-abiding, contributing, acting, being present in the social sphere, being present in the political sphere. And you have here, I met so many people who are involved in politics in Holland. They are citizens, and not only this, they understand the rules of the game. And yes, they are more and more visible. And this is the problem of our perception. While their parents were invisible, their presence is perceived as they are not willing to integrate. And in fact, it's exactly the opposite. In fact, the fact that they are more visible in the mainstream means that they are, in fact, part of the society. Our perception of their visibility is leading us or pushing us to come to the wrong conclusion. It's as if they don't want, but in fact they want and they are here. But as it was said, they are not and I am not, and this is why I know that I'm disturbing some of the perception of the people. I'm not going to be less Muslim to prove you that I am more European. Winning it or not, the future of Europe is me being a Muslim, you being whatever you want, and us being Europeans. And I say us, this is what I call the new we. You like it, welcome. You don't like it, you have to struggle. You have to accept it, because it's our future, it's the reality of our time. So we have the choice to deny the reality and to project onto it perceptions, or to come together and to try to build our common future.